You don't need a mirror with this phone. Like, I know most people would use the selfie camera for that purpose, but it's really like a mirror. The Note 10 Plus, which is one of the best and most expensive and most interesting smartphones of 2019. And let's talk about the hardware, the software and the experience so far. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Michael, and as usual, cool tech to inspect, and this is much more expensive than the usual grade of devices that I'm exploring, but definitely worth our attention. The new Galaxy Note series, which have made such a great impression, and definitely, even if you look it on the outside, it looks quite an aggressive upgrade from last year's model. Best to make this phone stand out, the color choices, the placement of the buttons, they've pushed to the limits of making it symmetric and beautiful at the same time. So when you hold it in your hands, it really feels premium. And I've watched already a bunch of reviews, and for example, I heard from MKBHD that it feels somehow lightweight. Probably yes, probably compared to the OnePlus 7 Pro, it does feel a little lightweight, because over here we have 196 grams versus 206 for the OnePlus Mobile. But definitely it feels great, it feels premium, and the kind of look that it has, it's beautiful as long as you don't see any fingerprints on top. Despite its massiveness, it is not too difficult to hold it with one hand, and this is something fantastic that Samsung work on since, I think, the Galaxy S8. Even if your fingers are a little shorter or you feel uncomfortable reaching the edges of the screen, there's a special mode developed for that. To enable the one-handed mode on your Samsung, go to Settings, Advanced Features, Motions and Gestures, and select the one-handed mode, and you can choose a bunch of options over there, and that's it. This display is simply gorgeous. Like, Samsung are great at leading the competition about quality of smartphone displays, and I guess they've always been on top in terms of brightness, colors and overall usability. It's one of the very few manufacturers where they didn't really adopt notches for their top devices, and that's great. For this one, they have decided to keep the camera with this little drop, which is somewhere at the top of the screen, and I still can't decide whether this is good or bad. Definitely better than a notch, but it can still be irritating if you watch videos in full screen. Also, the display hosts a fingerprint sensor now. It responds quickly and accurately, but keep in mind that some of the screen protectors may seriously degrade the responsiveness. The camera is of course a step up. Main shooter is 12 megapixel with aperture f by 1.5, which is really good. Telephoto lens is available for narrow field of view, mostly used for portraits, and there's also a wide-angle lens, which gives this Actioncam-like feeling when shooting, and Samsung are getting continuously better in the last years about photography. But while the tech specs here are really good, there soon will be the new Huawei Mate 30 Pro, which will probably cost at nearly the same price, but is definitely going to host a larger sensor. And when it comes to sensor size, it's quite an important thing, because the larger the sensor, the more light is going to reach throughout the sensor and make your photos look better, and that would mean that you're gonna get less noise, especially when there's a low light situation. But now the focus is on the Note 10 Plus, and we know that Samsung are good about the software processing. Modes of the camera are outstanding, intuitive camera app interface and close to natural colors with excellent dynamic range, and of course you can use HDR mode, which is supported. Concerning video, again, very strong, because it has gyro-based IOS and EIS. So on one side we have optical image stabilization, on the other side we have electronic image stabilization. Optical image stabilization is supposed to compensate the most aggressive shakes, which happens with combination of the gyro sensor, and the electronic image stabilization is masking the rest, cropping a bit of the frame and giving you the most optimal look and feel. When both are working together, we get the best outcomes. If your hand is rather steady, the stabilization can give you feeling as if you're using a gimbal, and I've shot some things with just a handheld tripod. miraculous. We tend to ignore how capable the hardware of smartphones nowadays is, and that makes really good videos and photos. A cool feature is the possibility to zoom into an object and to increase the audio simultaneously. Kind of fun, but can be confusing if the object is quiet and the more noise is around you. I'm not going to talk too much about the specs because I believe most of the reviews you've watched so far are containing this information. Quite a lot of RAM, the best in-class processors. Well, definitely what you find on the inside is a beast. I'm gonna highlight something interesting, like, again, a reminder, this phone will cost around $1,100, which is quite expensive. And it looks like it wouldn't include the latest from Qualcomm, which is the Snapdragon 855 Plus. So it doesn't have it. And most likely the forthcoming OnePlus 7T and 7T Pro would, which is a little weird. So honestly, I would have loved to see the latest Snapdragon processor here, but let's say the difference is kind of ignorable in terms of speed. As for battery life, it's always been tricky with Samsung phones. For a single SIM unit with 4,300 mAh, I'm not too impressed. Yes, endurance rating is pretty high, but expectation is that it should get almost identical battery life as the OnePlus 7, which has only 3,700 mAh, which is quite a serious difference, at least in terms of hardware. So yeah, definitely this software is not too well optimized about greater battery life. If you count on better screen on time, yes, the values are going to be good despite the large screen, but I think it fails most when it comes to standby. While Samsung officially have decided to get rid of the headphone jack with the Note 10 series, which is really sad, and I believe the headphone jack is officially done. Like, it's going to be less and less phones adopting this technology, unfortunately. They still keep the Microsd slot, which is great. First of all, this phone has a huge amount of storage internally, but yeah, you can use a microSD card with capacity of up to 1 terabyte. Enough hardware, let's talk about the software experience. I've never been a fan of Samsung's Android flavor, but I have to admit they keep most of the design from previous years and somehow manage to improve it. It is fast, and images look good, icons are beautiful, settings, well, the settings actually remind me of some of the older Android versions, and I guess that's a nice thing. Very nice to see that you can entirely shut Bixby off. This is configurable, and sure, you can switch to Google Assistant if you prefer to. Samsung keep the S Pen, and again, it's clicky. So if you consider this large screen to be somewhere between a tablet and a phone, yeah, with the S Pen you can draw, take notes, which then the software is going to analyze and read and save them, and that's even going to be searchable. You have the freedom to use your favorite launcher, but the stock one is good too. I won't run or quote any benchmarks because it's gonna rank always in the top spots, because like we said, it's one of the best hardware spec smartphones of 2019. Playing games with it is a real pleasure. Even the speaker is quite remarkable. In terms of innovations, the gestures, they're a new thing. Not sure if that's going to become mainstream or not. So at the end, I know there's a question that a lot of people are going to ask, especially if you follow a lot the Note series. Is it a worthy upgrade over the Note 9 devices? Honestly, I don't have a good answer for that. It feels more like an incremental upgrade, despite the nice changes on the outside, the pretty bold choice of colors and so on. But definitely this is a really great premium smartphone. At this price point, I wish there was a slightly larger camera sensor. I wish there was a display which is operating at 90 Hz, because over here we have only 60 and we see some competitors going to 90. And I truly miss the headphone jack, but I'm saying this just for fun. I know this topic is a kind of over. Well, I think the Note 10 Plus is about being brilliant, both in terms of aesthetics and technical data. Maybe you might have a slightly different opinion, so let me hear from you in the comment section right below the video. You can also check more details in the description below. And that's been everything at the first sight about this phone. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one. Cheers!